Good afternoon and welcome to Santos on Sports, along with my partner, Chris Santos. I am Paul Santos. Not feeling too good right now, but we'll get to that in just a second. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Citywide glass with not one, not two, but three locations to serve you best. One in Dartmouth, one in Fall River and Taunton. We have Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, where you can play tennis, you can play pickleball, and a whole lot more. And John Seed, attorney, former quarterback of the New Bedford Whalers, he's got a law office at 156 8th Street in New Bedford, and you can get more information on him at johnseedlaw.com. Chris, how are you today?
Well, I am well, and as you can tell, Paul, I am not home. I'm not down in the cave. I'm actually at my office at work. I had some things after school, and I couldn't make it home that quickly. So I'm presenting myself in a new spot that I haven't done in a while. But I'm here. I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to talk about a bad week of football in the NFL for me and you. That's for sure. I'm sure some other teams are excited and happy. But if you're a Patriot and a Cowboy fan, you are not very happy after week one.
I got to tell you, standing here right now and opening the show, I am embarrassed. I am embarrassed that after this preseason, after this complete debacle, that I actually picked the Patriots to win this game. And I'm watching this game and I'm thinking to myself, Patriots had no chance to win this game at all, right? They had that opening drive, which was pretty good. And then after that, it was over. I mean, they were behind by just like 2 possessions and you knew they couldn't come back. I mean, I'm watching this game. I'm like, how could I possibly have picked the Patriots? I think it was just, with something inside. You're kind of thinking with your heart rather than your head. You're thinking Bill Belichick and all that. But I mean, this is a disaster. Now think about this real quick, okay? Since Brady left, right? Brady goes and wins the Super Bowl, basically waves it in your face, right? So what is the response by the Patriots? First of all, they had that year with Cam Newton. That was an absolute laughingstock disaster at 7-9. It's amazing that team even won 7 games. So I guess you could say that. Okay. So then after that season, they go out there and spend all kinds of money on really second-rate free agents. I mean, they were just paying everybody anything, even guys that are not even that great. They're basically B players. But then they get the good quarterback in the draft, and they go 10-7, okay? So now this year, they come in, you're thinking, all right, well, Mac Jones is ready to go. He's got buff in the offseason. He's practicing his arm strength and everything else. So what does he do? He goes out and hires these 2 failed bozo head coaches who've never run offenses before, and they're in there fumbling in there, and he comes up with a new system. And it is being installed by 2 people who never did the system before, never even worked on offenses before. So Mac Jones is there like, what the heck is going on here? The offensive line is a complete disaster. Nobody knows where to go. They basically lost the buy-in by the offensive line. The Pro Bowl offensive lineman, he wouldn't pay him, so he let him go. In the meantime, there's your guy out there, Mac Jones. He's under siege. And now people have been criticizing Mac Jones. I don't think Mac Jones played that bad. I mean, when you think about it, Chris, right? How about when, Tua threw up the ball for grabs? Went up there and made the catch? Tyreek Hill, because he can make a play for you, right? What happens when our quarterback, Mac Jones, throws one up there in desperation? He's directing traffic and everything. Hey, Hunter Henry's out there. But Hunter Henry is no Tyreek Hill. So, of course, the ball bounces away incomplete, right? He tries to force one into Parker. He couldn't make a play either, And then the one guy who's playing great last year, game I went to against the Saints, I'm like, wow, who's this guy? Bourne. This guy's good. He's the best guy out there. He doesn't play him. He does another one of these Malcolm Butler things, right? So my question is, this whole thing, I was always a guy that had faith in Bill we trust, greatest coach of all time. Is he really the greatest coach of all time? Or is that a bunch of nonsense? I'm thinking maybe it's a bunch of nonsense. Maybe he's not really the greatest coach of all time. Maybe he's just lucky that he had Brady and Gronk and a couple of these guys. And look at Bruce Arians. He won with Brady and he's a bozo, right? So what is going on here? I'm so frustrated. Help me out. Am I just a spoiled Patriots fan, or am I making some good points here?
No, I think you're a spoiled Patriot fan. You're expecting win after win after win after win, and a lot of things are going wrong. And, of course,
Uh-oh.
You're going to have some struggles. And you saw it on the front line with Trent Brown and a few more. Now, remember, they've returned 9 out of 11 players from last year's starting lineup. Now, what's changed? Shaq Mason out, Strange has taken his place, and Devontae Parker has been added in. Other than that, it's the same team from last year. So now it's, okay, we're not changing the personnel, but we're changing the system in the personnel. And if they don't shape that up, Mac Jones could get hurt and could get hurt badly. And if you recall, he did have a back injury at the end of that one. He got it checked out, says he's feeling better. But, already you can see from week one, the big issue was the offensive line. So they need to shape that up. As for Bill, Matt, and Joe Judge, what's going on there? It's anybody's guess in my eyes to try to figure out what this new system they're really thinking about doing. And if they're going to keep it, are they going to add it? They're going to not go back to the old way, whatever it is. But you had 2 weeks, Paul, to improve from preseason. And I don't think they did anything better than what we saw at the end of the preseason in those 2 weeks to help out. So they need to step up, get themselves going, sacked a few times, hit a few more times. So starts there with the line. Now, you talked about Bourne. Tom Curran just came out with, showing up late to a team meeting before Carolina, had the altercation in the Carolina preseason. Supposedly he's on Matt Patricia's doghouse, not Bill Belichick's doghouse. Very interesting. So he did get in one play, caught a ball for like 40, 41 yards. So they're saying he's supposed to be getting back into the mix. Going to need him as well. But again, it's game one, trying to sort things out. You could go by, they only scored seven points when they averaged 20 last year. But again, you only played one game. You could talk about first downs at 17. They averaged 23 last year. You can talk about total yards, 385. They only got 270. It's tough to tell after only game one. But they need some help up front, and I think it starts there. If they have any chance to turn this around, they got to make sure they make the right decisions, good blocking, and then see what happens, and keep Mac healthy as possible for 17 complete football games.
All right. If you'd like to join the discussion, you see the number there, 774-762-6234. Come in and give us a rant. Tell us something. I got a couple of comments here. One says that the Patriots are in a rebuilding mode. Well, you're in a rebuilding mode, so you go 7-9. The next year you go 10-7. If you go back to 7-9 again, you know what I mean? It's supposed to go 7, then 10, then 11, then 12. You go up the staircase.
Yeah.
Well, what are we doing? It's not supposed to be a roller coaster. It's supposed to be, if you're going to go down, and then come back up. And by the way, look at some of these drafts. They got Mac Jones. That was a good pick and all that. But Cole Strange, people are like, what the heck was that? In the first round? I could have traded up and got somebody really good. And then, not only that, in the free agent market, how come we never go out and get like a top-notch guy like Waddle or somebody like that? You know what I mean? We always get these second and third-rate guys. He's trying to do the old Herb Brooks. I don't want the best players. I want the right players. But you don't have Tom Brady there anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little different.
Well, then they rebuild when they went out and got all those free agencies and try to get all those players. I thought that was the rebuild that they were looking for to try to get it to that next level to get back where they wanted to be. So they spent a lot of money into doing that. So I thought that was the rebuild right there to try to, make it to the next step and advance a little further, as you said, from 7 to 10 and keep it going. So I'm not really sure, but they need to shape up on the offensive line first before anything else.
If you don't have an offensive line, you have nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. You see him dropping back and almost throwing off his back foot. You can tell he doesn't trust the offensive line. And, compared to last year, it's really unfortunate. But let's go to the phones and see if we got some other rants that are queued up over here.
I gotta feel Ryan's coming on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Good afternoon. You're on Santos on Sports.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
I don't know. I guess it's going okay.
Rhino, listen, I'm not happy, obviously, with my Cowboys team, but Paul's even more upset than I am from what he saw on Sunday. Give us your take, what you're thinking about this Patriot team right now.
Well, I was actually it's funny you bring up the Cowboys. I wanted to come at you appealing both as a Patriots and a Cowboys fan. I wanted to first ask this. How is it that the Chicago Bears in a monsoon managed to score 9 more points than both of our teams combined? That's first of all. And secondly, I'm more leaning towards Paul with this one. you say that we might be some spoiled Patriots fans, but I like to think that we're somewhat logical there. But other than that, that initial drive, it was more along the lines of what I expected. Crappy play calling across the board. Nobody could block a soul. Mac Jones is getting absolutely killed back there.
Mhm.
And you mentioned Kendrick Bourne being in Patricia's doghouse. First of all, I feel like Bill should make that final call, not Matt Patricia, first of all. And secondly, the second he's way down in the depth chart, the second you put him out there, it's a 46-yard gain. So I was like, okay, he's one of your best players on offense. He just made a big play. How about don't do the Malcolm Butler thing and play him for some more snaps, see if you can get something going. And I will say, too, I was a little impressed by the defense. I was much more impressed by the defense because I'd say even though Tyreek Hill got his catches, I thought it was pretty impressive how Jonathan Jones did on him. We were tackling him by his shoestrings, but I'd say he wasn't really like killing us over the top or anything like you saw in Kansas City. And Tua didn't. He was okay at best, but he wasn't like throwing bombs down the field to both Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. That was more yards after the catch where they really killed us there.
Well, there's an old saying: if you can't stop them, you can only hope to contain them. And I think that's what they were trying with Tyreek and even Waddle in the passing game. Absolutely. As for the Patricia part, I agree it should be Belichick's decision. But according to Tom Cullen, he's trying to give some reins and let Matt and let them kind of do their thing, and Joe let them do their thing. And so supposedly, Curran said that was the issue for Bourne. But we're going to do what's best moving forward. So we should expect to see him back in the lineup this week and getting a lot more playing time.
Well, we got a comment here from, let's see, it is David Paul Meady said the Patriots are lost. Sonny Sylvia says those poor Cowboys. So yep. Chris is getting the business over there with the Cowboys, which we understand, and we're going to go through that too. But, I just don't understand it, right? Like, Bill's the greatest coach of all time, right? Greatest coach of all time. So, the combination of these bad drafts, trying to put in this bad system with two bad failed coaches all rolled into one. Yeah, okay, we're a little on the spoiled side, but, we have this supposedly, arguably, in quotation marks, the greatest coach of all time. He's just making one bad decision after another. So, we're just expecting more. If this was a brand new head coach like Miami has, and he was coming in and he's just learning, we'd be a little more forgiving. But to have this person who we think is the greatest coach of all time make terrible decision one after the other, I think that's why we're more upset as opposed to just being spoiled.
Hey, Ryan, what do you also think about Bill saying after the game, he thought it was a pretty even game, and then he said 2 big plays skewed the game, and that was his 2 comments. What do you think about that?
It's actually funny. I heard that quote listening to Felger and Maz just yesterday.
Yeah,
I completely disagree with that.
I do too.
I think part of that quote was in terms of yards, it was competitive. Mm-hmm. Okay, since when did we care about yards? It's cool if you're a fantasy player, and I do fantasy, so I do like that stuff. But at the same time, if just for the game itself, you care more about points, turnovers, the crucial stuff like that. And we were terrible in every combination there, except for, like I said, some stuff on defense. So I completely disagree with that quote. And going back to what Paul was saying, in terms of just pure coaching when it comes to Belichick, I'm not questioning his ability as a pure coach. It's like you mentioned, the drafts, the it's the personnel decisions, other coaching hires, it's that other little stuff like that where it's been questionable at best these past few years. Probably much worse than that, really.
It almost seems like he's on the arrogant side. I hate to say that because he thinks he can take a B and C player and coach them up into an A- player, and then take on and defeat this other team that has more talent. But as you can see, between Waddle and Hill, you know what I mean? We don't have players that can go up and make a play. So, I mean, Mac Jones, they were kind of laying into Mac Jones. I don't think Mac Jones played that badly considering what's around him. He's got nobody to throw the ball to.
Exactly. Yeah. And the only thing I'll put on Mac is, okay, why exactly are we going at their best corner? But both times we went towards Xavier Howard, it was either a batted ball or it turned into an interception. So I don't get what that was about. But I totally agree. Like, given those circumstances, the fact that he was just getting killed back there, I didn't think he was all that bad. Like, I've been saying this from the beginning, ever since it was Joe Judge and Matt Patricia that came in. I think what's going to be a detriment to his development is the coaching around him. The fact that you don't have a legitimate quarterbacks coach, a legitimate offensive coordinator, not to mention you're trying to run the Shanahan system with someone who two people who one have never run offenses before, and two were never really from that tree to begin with.
Ryan, first drive, I thought the Patriots looked impressive right down the field. Of course, they make the mistake. The turnover happens. Let's say that doesn't happen and they score. Do you consider that a huge advantage? Okay, we scored. This is going to be our kind of a game, our system, and we play better? Or do you think even if they did score, that result still would have went the same way and said, well, here we go again because, we didn't score. But now if they did score, you could see that game maybe changing a little bit and have a little bit more confidence to say, hey, look, we did it first drive. Let's get ourselves together.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I'd say maybe, yes, there would have been like a little bit more confidence after you score on the first. Like, oh, cool, we go right down the field. Yeah. But at the same time, it's the football is a game of major adjustments. I feel like after that first drive, Miami would have made their adjustments on defense, and it probably would have been the same results. Maybe a different score. Maybe it would have been 14-20 as opposed to 20-7. But in terms of Matt getting killed back there, I'm not sure it would have been all that different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was kind of disappointing. You're right. That first drive, I kind of settled in my seat, and I'm like, okay, first down, okay, a little dink and dunk, okay, coming down the field like the old days, little dink, little dunk, always. I was somebody get down to whatever it was, a 25-yard line. It almost looks like, didn't it seem, Chris, like they had their mind made up that they were just going to take that shot? It was almost like, okay, it's sort of like when somebody gets in the batter's box and they know that the pitcher always starts with a strike down the middle. They already made up their mind and they're swinging things in the dirt. And like, oh, it looks like he had his mind made up before, as soon as he got up there, what he was going to do. It just looked like they had their mind made up. Now, obviously, if it had worked, hey, could have got a pass interference call there too, by the way. Mm-hmm. And the guy was being held, for God's sakes, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Brady would have got that call. Oh, never mind. But anyway, it was so disappointing to see that interception, a ball bounce in the air after they went down the field. Chris, you're right there. It was a nice drive that first time.
It was, and it looked like they knew what they were doing. It looked like they shaped up from the preseason, 2 weeks to practice it, get themselves ready, get the personnel that they want in there, and get some kind of a good drive early on. Start it fresh on the road. Let's get it done, and then all of a sudden, bang, that hits them. And then you just that momentum in NFL, it switches so quickly and it's so fast, as Ryan said too. But Ryan, no Tom Brady, 17-18 are the New England Patriots since the departure of Tom Brady. He's not walking through that door, so Mac Jones is our guy. You don't protect him, it's going to be a long 17 games for him. And that offensive line needs to step up and shape up and quickly.
I don't know if you're old enough. I know Ryan isn't, but Chris, do you remember that game, Electric Football?
Yes.
They had this old game, Electric Football. Ryan may not remember this, right? You take little plastic players.
Yeah.
And you take there was like this little Nerf ball, and you put it under the thing, right? And then you turn on the button, and the whole field would vibrate like this, and the players would all go all over the place, and it was like a big mismatch. That's what the Patriots' offensive line looks like. It looks like Electric Football.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I think my mom used to have one of those back in the day. My mom or my dad, one of those two guys.
I mean, nobody knew you. I don't know what kind of strategy you had. As soon as you hit the button, the whole thing would vibrate, and players would be bouncing all over the place. I mean, what are they doing on the offensive line? How about that? That strip sack. I mean, guy just went right in like untouched,
unblocked.
They blew it. Now that can happen, but I think it was more likely to happen when you're trying to put in a new system.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the guy, the defensive end crashed in. The safety came up. Trent Brown crashed in with him. He had to have the responsibility of that guy on the outside. He never touched him. They strip sack one man in the guy's hands, and they go in and score. So, Brown took the credit for it and said, yeah, that was my mistake. And you have to pick up those packages and you have to see it and cover it. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But obviously it's a big play in the game, one that Bill would have loved to have back. And he said that was one of the big plays that really turned the game over to them. And those things are going to happen, unfortunately. It's the same thing when Aaron Rodgers went out there on the second play of the game. He throws a bomb. It's right in the kid's hands, and he flat out dropped the ball with coverage 10 yards behind him. He catches it, runs in. It's a touchdown. It's a whole different ball game. Aaron was like, he never looked back. He didn't know what to do after that. So, again, a big swing of momentum. A lot of things go wrong. It just wasn't their week. And so you regroup and go to Pittsburgh and see what happens.
The quarterback always gets, a disproportionate amount of the credit when things are going good and a disproportionate amount of the blame. What I think is unfortunate, if this keeps up, right, and the Patriots end up having a 7-10 season like Chris predicted last week, or, under 500, kind of a mediocre year and all that, I can hear it already. The pundits are going to say, well, Mac Jones, he's not as good as they thought. He had the sophomore slump and all blah, blah, blah. But, Chris, to me, that's nonsense. Like, if they don't have anybody around them and they're putting in a new system and they got two coaches that don't know what they're doing, it's not on Mac Jones at all. It's not fair.
And if you're on your back half the plays, what are you going to do? So, again, I think it starts with the line and then you work from there. But, if you're getting rushed and hurried, sacked, hit, all those things, and a lot of it, Ryan, it's going to be a long season for them. They need to keep them healthy. They got to shape it up quickly.
All right, before we let Ryan go, let's ask Chris a question about the Cowboys. That was not a good game for the Cowboys. How many points did they score? They scored 3 points or something?
Yes, and the problem there, the same things like first series, one of our offensive linemen went down, which is where we're very weak at right now. A lot of guys injured. So he goes in, another one comes in, and the next thing you know, I don't have the playmakers down the field besides Lamb, and no one else is stepping up and doing their job. With Gallup out, the other wide receiver is out as well. So the playmakers weren't there. They tried to get Ezekiel the ball, had 12 carries for 60 yards, averaging 5, but not enough, obviously, on the offensive side to get it going. Dak made a couple of errors, but then again, when you're hurried, you're pressured, you're being sacked. You try to make those plays, and it went against them. Defense held up against Brady. Not too bad. I know Tom had one. I thought he had an average game, so I was happy with our defense. Kind of similar to what I saw, with the Patriots. Happy with the D, not happy with the O, and we got to get back at it. The bad news is Dak got hurt, had wrist surgery. Supposedly he was successful, but he's going to be out 4 to 8, according to people. You still have Mac. I don't have Dak. It's ugly right now in Dallas land. And I'm hearing Cooper Rush is the guy. I don't know if Jimmy G's available or someone else, but it's not a pretty sight in Dallas on the offense, that's for sure.
Any thoughts on Dallas before you go, Ryan?
Well, as we both well know, the offensive line has been in shambles. Obviously, Tyron Smith ripped up his knee before the season even started, so we had to slide Tyler Smith, our first-round pick, over to left tackle, and then we recently signed Jason Peters, the old fossil, to the practice squad. He'll probably be elevated within the next 2 weeks or so.
Right.
And that Amari Cooper trade just looks worse by the minute. First of all, the fact that he only managed to get a fifth-round pick out of a guy like that is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And, I still don't think that CeeDee Lamb is ready to be a number one receiver yet. Michael Gallup is still coming off the torn ACL. Yeah. James Washington, who we had signed, did something to his foot. And it's even before he got hurt, Dak didn't look all that wonderful in there. I'm not saying that, Cooper Rush should be in there long term because he had that good game against the Vikings last year. I'm not saying that at all. It's just not. Zeke still looks like he's slipping. Dak didn't look all that great. Micah Parsons is an absolute beast. I love that kid. He had two sacks in that game against Tom. He's unbelievable. The defense was fantastic, but it just seems like the exact opposite of 2020. Defense is spectacular. The offense is an absolute crapshoot.
Yeah, a little mirror image of what happened in New England. I kind of see that, with the primary issue obviously being big playmakers and the offensive line. And so, like I said, you still have Mac. And now with Dak being injured, that's really going to hurt. So hopefully both teams can figure out playmakers to step up and offensive line to hold up so they can make plays as well. So it'll be interesting in week 2.
We were predicting the Patriots last week, right? Some people had sort of like a dire outlook. I was trying to be optimistic Ryan has them at 6-11. So you know that's looking pretty good right now. I know it's only one game, but I mean, based on what I saw, Ryan, you could be right. I'm afraid to say.
I mean, I wish I could be wrong too, but you know, even without T.J. Watt, if that defensive front just eats them alive again, I'd say, yep, that's probably what it's going to be.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot for the call. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
774-762-6234. You know, Mr. Guarantee was tied up a little bit earlier. I don't know if he's going to be able to call us or make a comment, but he did make a comment earlier when we were promoting the show, and he said something like "Fire Bill Belichick." So I don't know. That's a little extreme. Even I'm not going to say that, but I just don't understand what he's doing. You know, like I would think that him and Bob Kraft in the back room would be saying, "Oh my God, Brady, we let Brady go too soon. He won the Super Bowl. It's so embarrassing." You know, it was like, I'm a Patriot fan, and I was like embarrassed. I couldn't believe they let him go, and then he goes and wins the Super Bowl, rubs it in our face and everything, right? So I'm thinking, all right, let's go get, hey, we're going to spend some money. We're going to get this guy. We're going to get that guy. We'll get the quarterback. No. And now like ripping it up and starting from scratch again. I'm like, look, the clock is ticking. I mean, obviously, let's say the Patriots have a bad year this year, but then they come back next year and they build back up again. They get the new system in and everything else. That's fine. But, I mean, God, it doesn't seem like, in this whole Brady versus Bill thing, that Bill is making any kind of response at all. It's like a feeble, crappy response that the Patriots are making.
Well, Paul, do you think the 7-10 and then the 10-7 sits back and says, that's not good enough for us? So now we have to do something different to our offense so we get back to, 15-2, 14-3. Do you think in those 2 years, in what had happened there, that it really needed to change, as they say that they're trying to do, to make it back to records like that? What do you think?
Well, that's my hope. That's my hope. Where you're saying that, they're taking more of a long view rather than a short view. Us, the fans, are like, well, they went from 7-10 to 10-7.
Right.
So from 7 wins to 10. Now we want to go from 10 to 11 or 11 to 12 or do another 10-7. So Mac Jones has another year under his belt.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think they believe with the offense that they had, they could get better than 10-7. So they want to make the next move to revamp the offense to say we can be better than 10-7. Is that what I'm thinking? I'm hearing.
Yes, I think you're onto something there.
Okay.
That Bill is looking at,
Okay.
the San Francisco 49ers, the Los Angeles Rams.
Yep.
He's saying, you know what, this is the wave of the future. This is the way you can win.
Okay.
We think we can win that way. If we just keep doing it the old way, we'll get to 10-7 and we'll knock down the first round because we can't be throwing the ball all over the place and spreading them out and going in a shotgun all the time and all that. So, Mac Jones may be more like a Garoppolo, more like a Stafford, like somebody that's can manage the clock and be good enough to win the Super Bowl, even though he's a good quarterback, but not a great quarterback. So, yeah, I think I'm hoping, and I thought about that too, that maybe Bill is thinking, okay, this year we got to get some growing pains, but in the long run, a year from now, 2 years from now, you're going to look back and say, wow, it's a good thing we made that change.
Yeah, but you've said it, and Ryan have said it. Is that the coaching staff you want to invent?
Well, that's the problem. Like, if you're going to make this change and you're going to turn things over to this situation, these are not the coaches to do it. Yeah. That's the problem. It's not like you're bringing in, somebody with a big name recognition. And the whole thing, too, about saving money. I mean, for God's sakes, Kraft's got money coming out of his rear end, for God's sakes. Why are we being cheapskates and paying these two? Basically, what's happening is both judges still being paid by the Giants, and Patricia's still being paid by Detroit.
Yep.
And Bill is taking a $25 million salary, $2 million a month.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So come on, man. You can't use some of that money to bring in somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. That's the thing I don't like. You know what I mean? So, and even when Mac Jones at the beginning of the year, and he said, yeah, we're learning together. Mac Jones is just a young kid. Yeah. And he's looking at this guy and saying, this guy ain't McDaniels. These guys don't know what they're doing. I'm only 24 years old, and I can tell these guys don't know what they're doing. So now he doesn't have respect for the coaches. Now Trent Brown doesn't have respect for the coach, and the other offensive lineman doesn't have respect for the coach. And now all of a sudden there isn't this buy-in. That was the thing about Belichick. Like, people would say, "Oh, I'm playing for Belichick. Belichick says we got to do it like this. Everybody does their job." And I think it's like that whole thing, the whole Patriot thing is being lost that Patriot magic, it's all like whittling away, that Bill Belichick thing. That's what I worry about.
And it makes you wonder what McDaniels thought of staying here instead of going to Vegas, which you always want to be a head coach. But even if he stays, saying, "Oh, now you're going to change this on me," I had it like this, and now you want to change it to this. So he could have sat back and said, "Well, I don't know that kind of system you're looking to do or whatever, and I'm going to do my own thing and what I have and go to Vegas and do it." So who knows?
I'm talking to myself over here.
I got you. Now I can hear you.
Yeah. Well, maybe what I was saying wasn't really that great anyway. But I think it's, we are spoiled. We, up at New England here, we have all these championships and everything else. And I'm looking in the horizon. I'm thinking, gee, the last 20 years has been something like you're never going to see again. But it'd be nice if we could get in the playoffs and make a run at it here and there in the next 10 years. You could go 10, 15, 20 years and not win anything. In fact, when Brady and Belichick were together, they went 10 years without winning anything. The greatest coach of all time and the greatest quarterback of all time, 10 years and couldn't get over the hump. So, God, it just feels like.
Well, the only thing I can say is, listen, it's only week one. Okay. It's week. I know it's not what you liked. I know you didn't like what you saw, but it's only week one. So is there room for improvement? Obviously there is. Can they do it with that coaching staff led by Bill and what they have in there? Well, that's what Patriots fans have to think. Now you go to Pittsburgh and you just, you focus on them and then you keep going from there. So yes, it's only 1 week. Let's see what it looks like. As I said, that first 4 games, Paul, if you remember what I said last time, after that, the next 4, that's what I had called the easier ones. And if you remember me saying, I think that I said they would be 2-2 after the first 4 or 1-3. Then they would try to work their way into getting with some of the easier teams. So let's hold off until we get a few more weeks under our belt just to write the Patriots, off into the sunset.
All right. If you'd like to give us a call, look at that number at the bottom of the screen. Yep. Right. Let's see right here. Look, 774. I'd be like the weatherman. 774. 762-6234. We have a cold front coming in over here. I have this picture of downtown New Bedford here, and I got a lot of these pictures of down. Yeah, beautiful picture. But you got to notice I have like a sunny one, a real sunny one with the sun is shining brightly. And then I have one here where, we're fading into darkness. You know what I mean? We're just like we've come out of this great period of time with great sunshine, and I was just kind of like petering away, just like petering away into the darkness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see the dark clouds up above. I hate to see what it's going to look like next week if they lose to Pittsburgh and it's 0-2. There could be glaciers and a lot more going on in the background over there. There may be no sun at all.
All right, 774-762-6234. If you'd like to give us a call and rant a little bit. And someone was talking about the Baltimore Orioles over there, and you get that Baltimore Orioles hat.
I do.
So, hello, are you there?
Hey, Mr. Santos.
Hey, we got L Product on the line. Hey, you're on the air with our podcast.
Okay.
All right, so tell me what you think about the Patriots. That was pretty ugly, right?
Yeah, it didn't look too good. I'm thinking, Mac Jones right now, he just got to earn that eye of the tiger. That's what I think that's missing right now. That it could have been a highlight reel ESPN all week if he had it in him. You know what I mean?
So you think Mac Jones had a lot to do with what happened yesterday?
Yeah, have a lot to do with it, but part of it was him, because when you're a quarterback, you run things. As far as being a quarterback, if you look at some of the veterans, a coach may run a play or say run this certain play, and you get out there and they'll see something and say audible. We ain't running with the coach say. We running what I say. I'm the quarterback. Audible, change that. Watch the blitz over there. He's about to come through, and we're going to change things. I don't think he has that in him yet. He has to develop it, but it's like his second season, right?
Yeah, so do you think he needs more experience, right? He needs more experience.
Yeah. That's the only reason I feel that game it was because lack of experience.
All right, what do you think about that, Chris? How much of it do you think is on the quarterback's ability to read what's going on, like a Tom Brady or a top quarterback or the top
Yeah,
quarterback.
the Brett Favre's and
Brett
all
Favre,
that.
could
Yeah,
he
you
have
know.
looked out there and said, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm not throwing the ball over there. I'm changing it, and I'm going to do this."
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
to a certain point, I can agree to
you
that.
have that eye of the tiger type of
Right. All right.
feeling, even to basketball and everything. Like a point guard,
Mhm.
when he's coming up the court, he knows what's going to work. He's going to be like, okay, that's not going to work. They want me to send down to the bottom or either back to the quarterback thing since we're talking football.
All right, hang on a second.
I can't throw it in that coverage. Coach want me to throw it over here, do the Hail Mary over here, but I'm not going to do that because I see a leak in the defense. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the play. I'm going to do a run play because I know we can get a quick 5 yards because they think that we're going to do the Hail Mary. I'm not listening to nobody. I'm talking to the running back. I said, get ready.
All right, hang on a second. This is a great take that you're doing. You're giving us a take that's a little bit different than what we were saying. So, Chris, our X's and O's guy, has he got a point there? Does the quarterback have to get in there and say, wait a minute, they're sending me this play, but I'm seeing this and that. I got to take the lead and I got to do something different.
Oh, there's absolutely that he can do that and make some audibles and some different calls. But you have to remember there's 11 people on the field. And what happens then is a defensive end comes in and just puts the tackle right on his ass, goes right by him and sacks Mac Jones. You can't blame Mac Jones for that. He hands off the ball. The guy goes in the line. He gets popped. The ball gets fumbled. You can't blame that on Mac Jones. Mac Jones throws a perfect pass to Devontae Parker. It goes right through his hands or he juggles the ball and drops it. You can't blame that on Mac Jones. There's 11 people on the field, and they have to work together in sync to get the job done. Simple as that. Yes, Mac leads it, but the other people have to step up and do their game as well.
Are you a Patriots fan,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Definitely. Oh, yeah, I'm a Patriots fan, born and raised in Mass. So, yeah, I got to roll with it anyway, good season or bad season. I got to roll with it.
That's right.
You know, when we talking gambling and talking to bookies, man, I got to roll with what's smart. You know what I mean? I got to say, you know what, due to lack of experience, you know what, man, I might bet against the kid tonight because I don't think he got it in him.
All right. Well,
that's when we talking on that end of things. You feel me?
Yeah.
Paul, we have to get this guy in before Sunday.
You know that team spirit.
Yeah.
Like someone on the team needs that team spirit. Sometimes it comes off the bench, but mainly whoever's the captain got to run that. Like, come on, man, y'all are playing weak. You know what I'm saying? You know that I didn't see nobody out there really upset. Like, come on, you playing weak. Come on. This is ready for playoffs. We got people watching us. We didn't practice all week out in the sun to come out here and play like this.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some juniors. Now, this is what I'm saying with Mac Jones. He doesn't have the scrambling in him. You know what I mean? It seems like he's more like, okay, what you tell me to do, I'm going to run it. Okay, you want me to pass it over there? I'm going to pass it over there, even if there's 3 defenders over there. You seem like, hey, I'm doing what you guys told me to do. No, you got to get out there and say, hold on, I'm about to scramble a little bit. You see what I'm saying? I know he got the knee injury or whatever, but look at the guys like Michael Vick and these other type of quarterbacks. Certain times they were saying hike and running for 20, 30 yards.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we appreciate your point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, that's totally different than what I was saying. I was saying, well, Mac Jones is going to get blamed for everything. But, maybe he has a point, right? Maybe Mac isn't, the guy that either has the experience yet, like you look at Josh Allen and what is he, year 5 now or something? First 3 years shaky. Now in year 5, he's got that team like, I'm the leader. You listen to me, you go there. I mean, and Tom Brady, of course, the greatest of all time. How many times did you see him, even with Tampa, gets on the side of the field and he grabs a couple guys and says, hey, what are you doing? Do this, do that. I'm running the show here. I'm the quarterback, So the caller has a point, I think, a little bit.
Well, yeah, of course you want a leader to take charge of the offense. And at the same time, you have to think about what your leader has as his intangibles. Now, I don't think Mac Jones is a Michael Vick kind of runner. So you have to sit back and say, well, I don't want to see Mac Jones do that. So we don't put certain plays in, even though there are times he's going to have to take off and he's going to have to try to scramble a little bit, so forth and so on. But he's not that kind of Lamar Jackson player, a Kyler Murray moving all over the place. He has his own way of doing it. The leadership takes a little bit of time. I don't think Tom Brady came out the first 2-3 years and everybody said, Tom Brady's the greatest leader of all. But he developed that and he became that. And we saw some guys catch balls from Tom Brady that I sat back and said, this guy's a 3rd or 4th stringer, and he's making those catches. And I've seen it from other teams who are 1-2s and couldn't make catches from Brett Favre or somebody else. So, yeah, Tom had that extra oomph in him to say, hey, guys are going to play for me. But does that happen overnight? Absolutely not. That takes experience, time, and hopefully they think Matt will be that kind of guy in the long run.
All right, we got Butch on the line. Good afternoon, Butch. How are you?
What's going on, gentlemen?
I have to get your take on this game because I am irritated. I am aggravated. I understand that, I'm a spoiled Patriots fan and all that, but I have to ask you a question as somebody with knowledgeable in sports and everything. What were we seeing out there? Because it looked like electric football to me.
Hold on, Paul. Before he talks, I want you to know he was live with me watching that game.
I wish I was a fly on the wall for that one.
No. He was live with me watching that game. Give us your take, Butch Ferreira.
All right, Butch, what do we got?
Well, I got to tell you, losing Josh McDaniels, that's a big hit. The guy was so invested and so ingrained into the process as far as, the players on the team. I think losing their offensive line coach is also a big hit. Another guy that, is just totally ingrained into the process. And, they're experiencing not just new players, but new coaches. I mean, Bill's still there, of course. He brought back some guys that, although they're familiar with the process, it doesn't appear that they're in the positions in which, gave them their head coaching chances. For example, their offensive coordinator wasn't coaching offense, and that's not what got him promoted to being a head coach in the NFL. So it's certainly a lot of transition. You got a second-year quarterback. They don't have a lot of superstars on this team, although they do have some. Some of their receivers are like on the bubble and probably could be if we can get the ball to them. So I thought we saw a very newly coached team, changing the offense. I think it's a lot of evolution or change. Sometimes when you use the word change, you would indicate that you're changing because you did something wrong. So let's use evolution. They're evolving into a different offense here based on, I think, the expertise of the quarterback, the expertise of the coaching staff. It looks kind of, without any spice. It looks just, traditional hand the ball off, and it just, doesn't have the
vanilla.
Yeah, it doesn't have, the taste of a very experienced Tom Brady with a very experienced offensive line and so on and so forth.
So were you watching the game?
I thought their defense played decent. I thought the defense showed up.
Last year, I ripped the defense every game, and the defense played better than the offense in this game.
Yeah, and, I think, with the collective bargaining agreement where they reduced a lot of the practice time and a lot of the practice with pads, and they reduced the number of preseason games. And I know a lot of people will criticize, folks for saying this, but, and of course, everybody has the same rules. But I really do think the first couple of games in the NFL season now are an extension of the spring practice, or not spring practice, or spring training, or, training camp is what I'm trying to say.
All right, let's get Chris to chime in on what you brought up. What do you think, Chris?
Well, I think transition is a key word that Butch said. And, can it happen overnight? I don't think so. And when you have guys who might be defensive guys, I mean, I'm even looking like at Notre Dame right now, who's got a head coach in football, but he's more of a defensive guy. And what's wrong with Notre Dame? They're struggling on the offense. So there's a lot going on in those transition periods in and out that you try to find the right chemistry and the right mix. Now, that's what Bill thinks he has. Is it going to work? Well, it didn't in week one, and it hasn't in the preseason. Can it get better? Sure it can. I think anything can get better in time. And they find a way to adjust, adapt, overcome, and make themselves better. So I'm not righting the ship on the Patriots after week one. I'm not counting them out. Is it not the way you wanted it to go? Absolutely not. But can they get better and work on their game and improve? Sure. I think they did. But Paul, Butch, were you listening to the last caller?
No, I wasn't. I was actually watching a little Hard Knocks.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's great.
Our last call, I had a little insight, and I was thinking maybe to get this guy on before Sunday because he looks like the gambling type. And when, like yourself, when you only win 3 games over the weekend, you may want to listen to this guy, and you might get better.
Yeah. Again, the favorites came through, and eventually, I think the bookies are going to figure that out, and they're going to have to give some more points because this is unbelievable with the amount of favorites that keep covering. But that's the reason I'm not a gambler because I don't win. But,
you know what?
I'll be there in the end.
Do you think
I'll be there in the end?
Do you think the sky is falling? The sky is falling. The Patriots fans are saying the sky is falling. No, okay.
I don't think so, Paul.
No,
okay,
I could be wrong, but I don't think that the sky is falling. I think after 4 games, if we're 2-2. And we're 0-4, 1-3. We got problems, but I think it's too early to say that the sky is falling. I really do.
All right, Butch. Thank you very much. We'll catch up with you soon.
All right.
Always interested in. I had to get Butch on because I'm always interested in what he has to say. Well, he thinks talking about you got to be 2-2. That means you're going to win 2 out of the next 3 against Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Green Bay. Now Green Bay looked kind of shaky, but still, 2 out of the next 3. I think the Patriots could actually, get it together in the next week and win 2 out of the next 3. I mean, you never know what can happen, but I'm just saying.
I mean, Baltimore played the Jets. They put up 24. They did a little bit with the defense. I mean, just kind of control Lamar Jackson and then see how it goes from there. Pittsburgh's Pittsburgh. I'm not stuck with their quarterback. They beat Cincinnati because of their defense. And then Green Bay, it was the worst game Rodgers has had in years, and they got no offense at all in the wide receiver department. They got 2 good running backs with Jones and Dillon. So if the Patriots stick with their kind of defense, I think they make it difficult for Rodgers because he's going to have to throw, and he's got no one to throw to. So, he's shaking his head right now in Green Bay. It's a lot of ifs and buts, but, I can't see why the Patriots still can't go 2-2.
All right. We're going to go to Dylan in Boston. You're on Santos on Sports. How's it going?
Hey, guys. How are you?
All right.
Hey, how you doing?
What did you think about that disaster?
Well, I think it was just that. It was a complete disaster. It seems like things have obviously turned here, and we clearly have the clear answer of Brady versus Belichick, and I feel like we've had that for a little while now. But it's certainly apparent now. It's a players' league. I think that's the case in just about every sport now, and coaching has really been minimized. And as a fan and former player myself, I kind of hate to see it. I think the coaching aspect is always important, but it seems like it's become less and less important over the years, if that makes sense. And I hate to see that, but anyway, it seems like it's going to be a long rebuilding process here with the Patriots, and they just got to find a way to get everybody on the same page and get everybody together. You got to coach everybody differently,
Yeah, and again, it starts with offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, offensive line, cornerback coach, wide receiver coaches. Everybody's going to be on the same page, the same process. Now, at the same time, you got 11 guys that got to go out and do your job, step up when you need to step up. And when guys fail, you got to get someone in there to take their place. Guys make mistakes. They make changes. They make things. But at the same time, when you hire a head coach nowadays, there's a lot going on. And even when a guy that they just hired in Miami who gets his first win over Bill Belichick, got to be quite impressed, how he can step right in and say, whoa, I'm playing New England week 1. I got, one of the greatest coaches ever. I got them coming in. I got some new players, new system too. And guys like that handled it well, even though they do have the personnel. But I have to give, some of these head coaches that came in these weeks who did a pretty good job and won for the first time.
What'd you think of Mac Jones's performance?
Yeah, I mean, he's okay. He's doing what he can, I don't think he was, I don't think he was very good. But I don't think he was terrible. It seemed like he made some wrong reads, and that interception on that first drive, was unfortunate. It seemed like he feel like the Dolphins kind of caught a lucky break there. I think it's important. You look at the Kendrick Bourne situation. I think coaches, you got to try to manage these different personalities, and I don't know. Sometimes benching the guy, for.
All right, we lost Dylan, but I think
we lost Dylan on the road.
But he was making the point about, hey, sometimes you bench a guy, but that was the thing with Francona when the Red Sox finally won the World Series. It wasn't about did he bring in the right pitcher or did he do this and that. He managed different personalities. Schilling, totally different personality than Pedro, who had a totally different personality than Ortiz, who had a different personality than Manny. Manny being Manny. I mean, all over the place, all kind of different personalities, and he managed it together. So football was always really like the sport that I think the coach had the most impact. But maybe now that managing the personalities thing in football has become more important. I mean,
I think you have more coaches, Paul. You have more coaches in the NFL. So now them guys are doing the philosophy and the psychology with the talent they got. So the wide receiver coach handles the wide receivers and knows that this guy does it like this guy does it like that. He's like this, and then he's done. He's got his 5 players. Then the offensive line coach does the same thing. Then the defensive line coach. So they got a lot more coaches to make it easier on the head coach and say, okay, that's why Tommy Curran said about Matt Patricia and the Kendrick Bourne situation, and Bill let Matt take care of that instead of Bill stepping in and taking care of that.
Yeah, exactly. A lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. I'm glad I know you got some information from listening to our good friend Tom Curran, who was a guest of the show here, and I know you've had coffee with him a couple of times up there in Lakeville, Massachusetts. So he's got some good, kind of like background information. And usually his information, we learned about that when he was on this podcast. If you didn't have a chance to see it, you can go back at Santos on Sports, scroll back and check out not only Catherine Garrigan, which was a great one, but also Karen Garrigan, excuse me, and Tom Curran. Now, Tom Curran talked about it, how, you have to build these relationships. And when you build relationships and you build trust, then you can get some information. And the information is coming from people they know that you're not going to blow their cover. Right. So usually when he comes through with the information, it's right on the money. So, that thing about Bourne showing up late for practice and all that. Hey, I understand discipline and all that, but for God's sakes, this team isn't deep enough to be able to do that. Maybe you bench him for a quarter, or maybe you do something like that, but to put him in the fourth quarter. And then I guess there's some conspiracy theorists, that say that, Mac Jones and Bourne are very friendly off the field. They kind of clicked. They're always warming up together on the sideline. Mm-hmm. So as soon as Mac Jones saw Bourne there, the first ball went right down the sideline, right to Bourne. He's like, oh, he's in the game. Okay, watch this. So I don't know if that's a little bit too much of a conspiracy theory, but hey, he came in the game and Mac Jones put it right on the numbers down the sideline.
Yeah, he did, and a lot of those players have that camaraderie with one another, and they figure out, hey, I have a lot more faith in this guy than maybe this guy, even though I'm not going to shy away. But if I feel if I get it there, he's going to catch it a little bit more than this guy. So that kind of stuff, that progresses as you start to, learn the system more. It progresses as you get to develop with that quarterback. You may not do that during the season. You can do that in the off season. And maybe those guys are working out together. I mean, we don't know that, but I'm sure that, someone could say, hey, me and Mac have been, putting in our time in Palo Alto, California or whatever. And we've been working out there. And now we're going to bring it to New England and show everybody that, we're a force and we're a good combination. So let's hope for Bourne's sake. The things are in the past. Going to see more for him, getting him out there because they need another playmaker, another weapon to go along with some of the other guys.
I got a little speculation here, and I have absolutely no evidence to back it up. So, of course, being an attorney, I generally don't make comments without evidence to back it up. Okay. I haven't even got probable cause. It's just a feeling I have, right? So I'm watching the game. It's an absolute unmitigated disaster. We know that Trent Brown, Mac Jones, they think that this is a bozo system, right? And they try not to say that, but, he's throwing the iPad down and they're looking at these guys. These guys don't know what they're doing. I'm trying my best, but I don't know what they're doing. Okay. So the game's over. I love to watch the post-game show, right? So Belichick comes out, I got to play better, I got to coach better, I got to play better. Yeah. So I'm waiting for Mac Jones to come out, right? Because I want to see if he, like a little bit of aggregation will leak out during the post-game. Oh, he tweaked his bag. He's not coming out. What a lot of crap that is. He may have tweaked his bag, but they hit him because he was probably in the locker room going, what the hell kind of system is this? I'm embarrassed. You guys don't know what you're doing. Okay. All right. Just keep him in the back room over here because he's going to go out there and blow it and let him calm down and he'll do the press conference tomorrow. Okay. I have no evidence to back that up, What do you think about that?
Well, I'm just going by what Mac said today, and Mac came out and said, I feel better, but at that time I was sore, I was hurt. We went for X-rays. We wanted to make sure everything was the way it should be. Now, again, you could be right, and he could be sitting there going, I just don't really want to talk to the
I ain't
president.
going out there.
Hearing me about this system, but you can do the same thing with Bill. But what they learned to do is to give 1 word, 2 word answers, and you move on, and that's how they are. And Trent Brown said the same thing. Poor performance, need to play better. Poor performance, need to play better, and then you move on. So, the media is going to try to get whatever they can out of it. Some players are going to say a little bit more. Some players are going to say nothing at all. That's just how it is.
Well, I've always been a fan of Bill, obviously, and with the way he studies tape, and he's a student of the game, and he can remember certain plays that happen. And of course, he was the defensive coordinator for those 2 Giants Super Bowls. And of course, he drafted Brady. He put Brady in over Drew Bledsoe, which was controversial at the time. It turned out that he was right, to actually put this guy in over the multi-million-dollar quarterback. So he's made some great decisions over the years. So I'm rooting for him and I'm pulling for him, but I'm looking at some of the decisions that he's made, and I'm thinking to myself, is he losing his fastball or what? Like what's going on? Because look, this team right here. You look at Buffalo. Look at the drafts they've had over the last 3-4 years. And Kraft even said you build a team through the draft, and then you add some pieces in free agency. You can't just go out and buy the championship. You can't do it. You got to have good drafts, and their drafts are still mediocre. You know what I mean? They got Mac Jones only because word has it that they told Bill, hey, let's get a quarterback here. You know what I mean? Then he goes out and gets Cole Strange, kind of a bizarre 1st-round pick. He was in the game. They took him out. I mean, there were better players than that. Why not get somebody that can make a play, a good wide receiver? Now they got Thornton. He got hurt, but that wasn't in the 1st round. I mean, there were really good players in the 1st round. The last 2-3 years, the Patriots have blown it like the Bruins have.
Well, and coaches think, and you've said this before, I can take A-, B players and make them A players. And I feel like if I can get him here, it's a perfect fit for us. If I can get him in this round, it's a perfect fit for us. And they plan their strategy, Paul, and they do it for a while. And when it goes bad, it's on them. It can't be on anyone else. It's on them, even though it's on the player to show up and do what he's supposed to do. And if he can't do it, then obviously it was a poor draft. If he does it well and he's making, Pro Bowls, you sit back and say, what a great thing we did. And we've seen some great ones from Bill, and we've seen some shady ones. And they're not all going to work out the way you want it to go. You're just hoping for the best. And if there's 10 draft picks, you're hoping half of them, make it and stick with it and become great players.
But
and
even
it's very difficult to do.
After that embarrassing year with Cam Newton and Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl, Kraft basically opened up the checkbook.
He did.
Here, the first day of free agency, it's like, get this guy, get that guy, get that guy, this guy, get that guy. Some of them worked out. Hunter Henry was one of the better ones. Bourne was a real good one, except, now he's in a doghouse, so they, won't use him. But, Aguilar has been fair. Smith is still, he made a catch or 2 yesterday, looked a little bit better. A lot of these free agents weren't the right ones. And then the following year, which is last year, there were much better free agents that they could have got, so maybe the better plan would be to, get some of them last year. And then this year you could have got more, but they blew all the money last year. So then when like Tyreek Hill is on the market or Waddle or some of these, defensive linemen or linebackers are on the market, they didn't have any money to get them, so he didn't even manage that right.
So the strategy there maybe backfired on them saying, hey, I think what I have right here in front of me, when Bob says, go get some guys, they went get the best talent of that free agency at that time. And they thought, we can make it happen with this personnel. Right now, no, not enough of what they want. They're hoping that it does. They got to go to Pittsburgh now, obviously playing in a tough atmosphere as they usually do. They don't have a great quarterback. I think they can really work on him. Claypool's a decent receiver. Deontay Johnson's pretty good. Najee Harris, big running back. And again, I'm not more worried about the defense for them. I think it's, can they score against Pittsburgh? And especially what Pittsburgh just did to Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, what he did, how is that going to handle it when Mac Jones is behind there? So, again, you're more concerned about what you're seeing from the offense than you are from the defense.
I think Mac Jones is a good quarterback, even now, second year. Obviously 10-7 first year. I think he was getting a lot of accolades that, I mean, he deserved the accolades, but, he landed in the right spot. He didn't land like in, some 1-15 team. You know what I mean? He landed with Belichick, Patriots, tradition, and everything else. So that's fine. But what's going on here in the second year? I disagree with that caller. I don't. I mean, he can go up with the line and do an audible and this and that, but his experience isn't as deep as like he mentioned Brett Favre or
Right.
Tom Brady, of course, greatest all time. To go up there and be running the show the way a seasoned Aaron Rodgers or somebody would do, you
Right.
can expect him to do that. He should be like Stafford or Garoppolo, where he goes out there, you tell him what to do, he does this. What's wrong with that? I mean, I think you can be successful that way too.
He can, and the other part is that will come in time for him to make every read and everything and say, I've seen this before. This is what's going to happen, so forth. But as I told that caller, it's 11 people on the field, and they all have to do their job. Because if your offensive lineman's on his back end, that's not good. Guys are dropping balls or people fumbling it or whatever. You can't blame Mac Jones for any of that stuff. Even though sometimes, a quarterback can get on his offensive line, a quarterback can get in the head of receivers and backs, and they don't do those things for a Tom Brady, and they don't do those things for other good quarterbacks. So I think that takes time, though. I don't think it's, automatically overnight.
All right, it was a fun show. I feel better now. This has been like therapy.
Yeah, you rant, Paul. You feeling good?
I feel good. I feel good. Now we got to go into Pittsburgh. If we can just go in there and pull that one out. I mean, don't even ask me for a prediction because my heart will say, yeah, I think we could get, and then they're going to go in there and do this with these bozos and try to do the system. I don't know. Trubisky, he's no great shakes either.
No.
This is probably a toss-up. The Patriots are actually favored by 1 point. Did you see that?
That's correct. The opening line is they are favored by 1 point.
I should have asked that Carlo, the betting guy there. What do you think of that? The Patriots are favored by. Do you think the Patriots? I mean, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I'd take Pittsburgh in the second on that game.
I'm not touching that one. That's for sure.
I'm putting all the chips right in there.
Yeah, stay away from that game.
That team that you saw yesterday, they're going to go into Pittsburgh and win that game.
Stay away from that game. Don't like it. I think the defense can make some things happen. Turn the heat up on the quarterback and maybe force some turnovers and force some things to make it a little bit more easier for Mac and maybe get some points to help him out along the way too. So I'm staying away from it, but it's week 2. We'll come back next week, Paul, and
yes,
we'll rant again. Either way, win or lose, and hopefully you'll be feeling better.
All right, so they lost to Miami. Now the next 3 games: Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Green Bay. And the Green Bay game at Lambeau. Oh my God! Yep. We're getting chills just thinking about it. We'd like to thank our sponsors: John Steed, attorney at law, Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, Massachusetts. Citywide Glass, 3 locations in Dartmouth, Fall River, and Taunton, and Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Thank you very much for supporting our show. Thank you to our callers for chiming in and. Let me just grab a little. This is coffee, so this isn't helping me. Okay. I drank this coffee before we went on. That's my wife says it gives me this. She calls this the happy juice.
You sure there ain't something in that coffee? I got to keep an eye on you. I don't want you to go overboard now because the Patriots are 0-1.
No.
Relax.
I'm good. That's coffee. That's cream and sugar.
Only one.
Cream and sugar. That's it. Cream and sugar. All right. For Chris Santos, I'm Paul Santos. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week on Santos on Sports. Take care.